Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the June 28th, 2017 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting. Call the roll.
Commissioner Cruz?
Here.
Edlin?
Here.
Moreland Capuya? Here. Myers?
Here.
Chair Kelly?
Here. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Cruz.
All right. On June 15th, I went to the Hispanic Chamber annual membership meeting. June 16th, the Crossroads training meeting here at Prosper Portland. June 20th, the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber board meeting. June 21st, Portland Center Stage board meeting, and then our briefing meeting on Monday.
I attended also the Crossroads training meeting a week ago Friday, 2 Broadway Corridor meetings, and a meeting with North De La Salle.
Myers.
The only event that I have to report on is the Good in the Hood. Attended the Good in the Hood event.
Nothing to report.
So I as well attended the Crossroads training, which was a really enriching day, which I enjoyed a lot. And then I was actually, my company marched in the Good in the Hood parade, which was also a interesting and enjoyable experience. Director Branham.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Commissioners. So in the last couple weeks, I attended the VOS annual dinner event, which was on Wednesday, June 14th. It was great to see a lot of support for the important organization, and we are continuing to meet with VOS weekly to clarify and refine the language of the letter of intent, as well as the elements of a special authority grant. I attended the launch of Zeidel's final barge on June 16th, which was bittersweet. It was a beautiful, really, as barges go, it was beautiful and it was very impressive, and it was interesting to see the launch, but bittersweet in that it's been a mainstay in the Portland business economy for a long time, and so great to see it marked with representation from Mayor Wheeler and other leaders, so that was significant. Had an opportunity to speak to local small business owners from across the city at the Main Street Alliance on June 21st. Heard a lot about some commercial affordability challenges that they're having, and look forward to continuing to work with them to see how to support that work with more affordable commercial space. Had an opportunity on Saturday to speak at the Portland NAACP branch at their general membership meeting, and had an opportunity to talk about what Prosper Portland is doing, and had mainly an opportunity to engage with people and hear what is important to them, and to begin a ongoing conversation and relationship there. And last night I attended the Northeast Community Development Initiative Oversight Committee and at the New Song Community Center. Great conversation about a number of things that are moving forward, including the community livability grants, the ADU pilot in partnership with the Portland Housing Bureau. Great participation. We went over because there were so many questions, so a lot of enthusiasm and great work by Kim Moreland on that front. So coming up on Thursday, we've got the Oregon League of Minority Voters Liberty and Hope Awards dinner that some of us will be attending. I have an opportunity to present Edawami's monthly Coffee and Issues on this Friday, June 30th. Was also invited by Moorebot's founder and Startup PDX Challenge alum James Pritchett to serve as a guest reader at the North Portland Library. If you haven't checked out Moorebot's, it's a really dynamic way of having books a little bit more engaging and interactive, so that's a fantastic local startup. We'll be presenting at the 1776 Challenge Cup Thursday, July 6th at Revolution Hall. It was started 4 years ago to highlight promising high-growth businesses that solve complex challenges in 75 cities. The winner of that challenge in each of the markets goes to a national and global competition. Last year, Tyrone Poole, who was also a former Startup Challenge winner here, won that for the People's Choice Award. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll also have success this year. And then we'll be attending and participating in the Hyatt Regency Portland groundbreaking event, the Convention Center Hotel on July 14th, which is literally 30 years in the making. It will be an extraordinary day to see that move forward. So proud of the role that Prosper Portland has played in making that happen. So finally, I'd just like to recognize a few transitions. The first is that Jillian Detweiler is leaving Prosper Portland. She came to us on an interim basis from Mayor Charlie Hale's office, and she is leaving to become the new executive director of the Street Trust, which is a fantastic organization formerly known as the Bicycle Transportation Alliance. And she's just going to be a phenomenal leader of that organization. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with her in that role, and really appreciate her willingness to come over while we were in transition and play a leadership role. So thank you to Jillian. And then, of course, last but not least, bittersweet day here with the departure of Chair Kelly and Commissioner Edlin, and would like to just thank you both for your service to Prosper Portland. And looking at what's happened during the years that you both have served, it's really pretty incredible how much you've helped oversee and lead. You've got the redevelopment of the 4 sites in Leadstown Center. It's really transformational. The amendment to 6 urban renewal areas, movement on Centennial Mills, getting resolution on that, the Convention Center Hotel, a development agreement with ZRZ, the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative, the landmark agreements to purchase the post office sites, the launch of our 2015-2020 strategic plan, and of course, a new name and a new brand. So lots that you have helped shape. And then, just from a values standpoint, both of you obviously bring different backgrounds and skill set, but when I think about some of the ways that you've contributed, there's a commonality, which is both of you have really increased our focus on the agency's long-term future, making sure that we continue to be relevant and solve some of those, our financial challenges in a way that optimizes public benefits. Very committed to ensuring equitable outcomes, thinking about people who could benefit from our work, encouraging us always to more deeply incorporate sustainable practices and to strengthen our relationships with communities. So we appreciate all that. And on a personal level, it's been a joy to work for both of you, and it's really been an honor to do so. So thank you for the opportunity. We will miss you. We appreciate your service, and I know there will be more words, but just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. I assume we don't have anybody for public comment. So we have a consent agenda item, Report 1726, Resolution 7241. The chair will accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and 2 seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Now we're going to adjourn the Prosper Portland Board meeting and convene the Audit Committee. And this is for action item Report 1727, Resolution 7242, approving independent auditor and audit scope and fees for fiscal years 2016-17, 27-18, and 2018-19.
So this is also on the consent agenda item, but as an audit committee.
Okay, so it's consent, I get it. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. We now adjourn the Audit Committee meeting and convene the Prosper Portland Board meeting. Our next regular agenda item is item number 7, Report 1728, Resolution 7243. An action item update on the fiscal year 2016-17 Community Livability Grants in the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal and approving a grant to St. Andrew and All Souls Episcopal Church in support of the Portland Abbey. Kim Moreland.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Commissioners and Executive Director Kimberly Branham and Pamela. Today is my pleasure to provide you with an update of the fiscal year 2016-2017 Community Livability Grant, which I will call CLG from this point on, in the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal area. And secondly, I am requesting that Prosper Portland approval of a CLG award to St. Andrews and also the Episcopal Church in the Portland Abbey. I am the project manager. My name is Kimberly Moreland. Prosper Portland first introduced the CLG program in 2006 in the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal area, added funding to other URAs in 2010, 2014, and 2015. Since the inception of the CLG program, Prosper Portland has awarded more than $5 million in grants to more than 100 projects. At the March 8, 2017 Prosper Portland board meeting, staff provided an update on the fiscal year 2016-2017 Community Livability Grant Program Award recipients in Lent, Town Center, Gateway Regional Center, and Central East Side URA, and in the Old Town, Chinatown neighborhoods. The CLG process for the Interstate URA was on a different schedule as it was launched to align with the Community Development Initiative, which was approved by both the City Council and the Prosper Portland Board in January 2017. The Prosper Portland Community Livability Grant Program support nonprofit organization projects that foster vibrant, healthy neighborhoods and improve the prosperity of areas, residents, and businesses. It also is an annual competitive grant for nonprofit and community-based organizations and that support permanent real property improvement projects that add, expand, or improve physical space. On May 16, 2017, an evaluation committee comprised of staff and 4 members of the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative Oversight Committee reviewed 11 proposals and recommended funding for 8 projects totaling $300,000. And those projects are on the screen. The proposals that did not receive a CLG grant were encouraged to resubmit during the next cycle, which opened up in August. The fiscal year 2016-2017 CLG awards in the Interstate Corridor area will invest in projects that honor the area's cultural and history, provide greater accessibility to community centers, improve business and marketing services for local micro enterprises, and increase community space to accommodate Portland's first African American museum. The grant will leverage more than $1.1 million in private investment and other funds, along with hundreds of hours of volunteer hours. And I hope you appreciate the picture.
I appreciate the picture.
Normally, the Prosper Portland does not approve CLG grant awards as it is within the executive director's signature authority. However, after the evaluation team recommended approval of the grant awards and the agency notified the project recipients, the executive director's father, a retired minister, was asked by the Episcopal Bishop Michael Hangley of the Diocese of Oregon to serve as a Sunday supply preach and to provide pastoral services to the members of the congregation for the next several months, beginning on June 25th, 2017. while the CLG awarded is, while the CLGs that were awarded is for physical improvement to the community facility only. It has no relationship to the ministry services. The executive director has asked to be removed from the decision-making process on this grant award to avoid the perceived appearance of conflict of interest. So we are at this time asking the Prosper Portland Board to consider approval of the grant award. At this time, I would ask Lou McLemore from the Billy Webb Elk Lodge to come and provide a testimonial about the CLG award.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name's Lou McLemore. I'm the Exalted Ruler for Billy Webb's Elks Lodge here in Portland. This organization's been in together for about 80 years, coming August, and we've been serving the community for a long time. And I guess in regards to the grant, when I started this project, looking at what we needed to do and help improve our building and keep up with the changes that are in our community now, I started talking to people and just trying to get an idea of what was available, what was around here that we could use. And young man Nate introduced me to PDC, well, Prosper Portland. I have to get used to that. And he told me, you might want to look at that, and I did. And I said that would probably help fit the bill, and it turned out to be really good. It was a very easy process, getting in the information that we needed, no problem at all. And working with Kimberly and the rest of the staff here has been, it's been really enjoyable. They've kept up with us, making sure that we're taken care of, and I enjoyed that. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. McElmore or for Kimberly? I think we're ready to take a vote. So do I have a motion? We have a motion.
Second?
And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Kimberly. It's been good working with you, and thanks for putting the picture up there. Okay. Next action item is Report 1731, Resolution 7246, authorizing a sub-recipient contract with Work Systems, Inc. to implement Economic Opportunity Initiative, Youth and Adult Workforce Development Services, and Community Workforce Navigator Program during fiscal year 2017-18. Morgan.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Commissioners, and Executive Director Branham. Thank you for accepting this walk-on item. I will be brief. My name is Morgan Masterman, and I manage our workforce and microenterprise programs for Prosper Portland. This action is authorizing Executive Director Branham to sign a contract with Work Systems to implement part of our Economic Opportunity Initiative, as well as implementing the Community Workforce Navigator Program for fiscal year 17-18. The Economic Opportunity Initiative began in 2004, and it has three components: youth workforce development, adult workforce development, and microenterprise. And it's aimed at increasing economic vitality of low-income individuals and focuses on target populations most in need of assistance to achieve economic stability. Participants are enrolled in our EOI program and receive up to 3 years of support. The Community Workforce Navigator Program began in 2015 as a way to ease access to workforce development services. Prosper Portland piloted this program in the Cully neighborhood last year and has seen that the hands-on community-based workforce navigator approach is able to better connect services to communities of color and immigrant and refugee populations. So in order to streamline the processing and incorporating additional workforce supports, this program will be implemented in fiscal year 17-18 by WSI. Prosper Portland will continue to manage 2 existing contracts for this work until they expire in December, and at which time it's anticipated that WSI will manage those contracts as well. On page 3 of your board report, you'll find detailed budget. Prosper Portland will implement these programs through a grant to WSI of approximately $2.8 million. And at your last board meeting, you heard from our budget staff on the allocations of our general fund for fiscal year 17-18, as well as an IGA with the Housing Bureau, which allocates community development block grant to Prosper Portland. These funds, as well as Prosper Portland's enterprise zone funds, will support this grant through the $2.8 million. We do plan to bring a more extensive overview on these programs and their outcomes to you in August, along with an overview of our very exciting small business work that we're doing. So I'll leave it at that and open up to questions if you have any.
Do we have any questions? I have a question.
Okay.
Where does the term walk-on come from? So I don't recall a walk-on agenda item, which I'm basically last meeting giving you a hard time, but is there a history of that term, or?
Just keep you on your toes.
Is it a technical term? Is it?
Legal term of art.
When something that comes up that, between the date that the public announcement of the agenda comes out and the date of the meeting, that realize the last minute needs to be decided by this board before the next meeting. In this case, it's we have 2 months before the next meeting, so this item has to be taken care of before August.
So you're telling me that this is a legal term, walk-on? Chair would take a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you,
you.
Morgan. Okay, next item is update on the Prosper Portland Long-Term Business Plan. Justin and Lisa.
Good afternoon, Chair Kelly and Commissioners. It's the last time I get to say that. I'm Lisa Abwaf. I'm the Interim Director of Development and Investment for Prosper Portland. And Justin and I are here today to provide you with an update on the status of our work related to the long-term business plan and the various components, the moving parts that we've been implementing over the past 6 to 12 months. And before getting started, he is on vacation, but I would like to pause for a moment to acknowledge Tony Barnes, who is kind of the brains behind the business model, as well as Faye Brown and a team of staff working on various components of the plan. So just as a reminder, the last time we were before the board with a full business plan overview was in December of last year. I think we all popularly call it Snowmageddon. And this diagram reflects how the long-term business plan provides a target for how we invest, seek new resources, and pursue opportunities that align with our strategic plan, both at a high level as well as on a year-by-year basis. This plan is a living document, so it will continue to shift, and we would want it to do so to make sure that we can continue to deliver on our strategic plan, and it supports the implementation of the strategic plan. It doesn't redefine the strategic plan. So it doesn't tell us the what, it tells us the how, and supports kind of our negotiations on individual investments and making sure that we're doing them in both a responsible manner to the strategic plan, but also fiscally responsible manner. And because it's a living document, what we've talked about internally is that we would anticipate reviewing performance with the board on an annual basis and tied to our budget updates to the board. So again, the long-term business plan actually has 3 major components. The first is revenues, or the resources that we have available via a few primary sources, and the most important ones, and we'll talk a little bit more about them today, are general fund, program and administrative fees, and then property income and real estate-based investments. The second component of the plan is the uses, or the expenditures, which reflect on how over the next 10 to 15-year period we'll continue to deliver on our strategic plan and as we update the strategic plan. And the final is, that Justin will speak a little bit about, is the metrics and outcomes of the work that we're doing, or how we communicate to the community to ensure that we're delivering on the strategic plan and what our original outcomes were, and are we accomplishing that. So back about a year ago, when the long-term business plan first came before the board, you did adopt updated financial investment policy guidelines that we've furthered implementation on based on the board's adoption. As you'll hear today, we've been moving forward on operationalizing this. So with adoption by the board, we've been looking at operationalizing it both through business plan revisions, and we'll walk through a few of those today, as well as changes to our internal processes that affect how we make day-to-day decisions about our investments. Again, there are three really major components to the revenues that we think about coming into the agency over the long term and maintaining our financial sustainability. And those three major components are, first, we need to be intentional about each and every investment we make, both from a public benefits perspective as well as a financial return perspective. As you can imagine, we're at the end of the life of a lot of these districts, and really being intentional about how we invest either those remaining resources or the remaining land. Second, as tax increment district debt is paid off, and we'll walk you through a bit of those details, property taxes will begin to flow back to the other taxing jurisdictions, including the city of Portland. And we do plan on seeking approval for receiving a portion of those revenues to support ongoing economic development investments in the city. And finally, we need to look at new opportunities for resources to the agency with a particular eye towards capital resources relative to operating resources that would allow us to continue to invest in businesses and jobs, complete neighborhoods, and building wealth, particularly within low-income neighborhoods and communities of color. So this provides you, we've run a number of scenarios over time and refined those scenarios. This provides you a high-level summary of the assumptions that are the underpinning for the model that we're going to walk you through today and the model that we've been refining over time. The first is that we do model receiving about 25% of what we call boomerang funds, or those general funds that are returning to the city of Portland as urban renewal areas pay off their debt. This leaves available about 75% of those funds for other city priorities, which includes the Build Portland initiative that the mayor announced earlier this year. One significant refinement to the model relative to the last time that you saw it is that we've moved towards a portfolio management approach where we manage our real estate investments in a blended way and really think about a targeted return for various components, whether that's via land or cash investment. And this provides us with a clear target, but it also allows us flexibility to negotiate individual deals and be responsive to community priorities, as well as changing market conditions. So what you see here is for our mission-related investments, we've assumed an average 6% return, which is relatively close to market. And then we've assumed about a 2.5% return, which would be below market for what we would call program-related investments. And this model is similar to what foundations use in their investment approach. Finally, it's important to note that the model does reflect stabilizing staff at 72 positions as of 2021, which is a smaller agency than we are today. So this gives you the full-on details of the scenario A that I just walked you through in terms of the assumptions at a high level. In the resources sections, I would point out that the ongoing and new public funding, together with our tax increment resources and real estate investments, are the major drivers. So those are really the areas that we need to pay particular attention to as we move forward with our investments. This translates into approximately, in total, it translates into approximately $240 million of resources over a 15-year period, or $17 million annually to the agency, and this covers primarily operating and program investments. The expenditures reflected here are operational and programmatic, and they don't include any capital. So we'll talk a little bit about how we've been pursuing separate capital resources for ongoing investments via loans, land acquisitions, infrastructure investments, et cetera. This diagram then shows how that plays out over time. So what you see on the left is where we are today. And it shows how as tax increment resources are diminishing, we're making up that difference via the way that we've invested those tax increment resources and over our real estate investments, either via program-related investments, which was that 2.5%, or the mission-related investments at 6%. And then what you see in the new public resources are what we called boomerang funds in the past table. So this table shows you across each of the active urban renewal areas that we have today, when do their debt pay off? The blue line reflects the taxes returned to the city's general fund over time and shows kind of the dates at which that occurs. The red line is just a more conservative model of that that takes into account compression. And then finally, the green line reflects the 25% that we're starting to discuss with City Council and other community partners as a dedicated fund towards ongoing economic development investments. And as you can see, though, that 25% is a really important component to the agency's long-term financial health, with over $100 million shown over the life of this graph. So we also wanted to give you a snapshot on time, because this really is a snapshot in time, in terms of what are the resources that we're working with today and what have we projected looking at into the future, particularly around our financial investments and our property investments. So today we have an outstanding principal kind of loan account of approximately $60 million. This does include a pretty sizable investment in the Lentz-Town Center. It's not the full investment in Lentz-Town Center because we haven't dispersed all of those investments to date. And then we've projected new commercial and business loans of about $100 million, and that ties back into that 2.5% and 6% return depending on the urban renewal area. Our real estate portfolio, we have about 37 properties, and it's a blend of two types of properties. One are developable land, where we have the ability to take the land value and place them into a development investment. The other is we have income-producing properties that also align from a tenanting perspective with our strategic plan. And the income-producing properties today net the agency a total of about just under $2 million annually. And then finally, kind of cash in hand, we have about $240 million cash in hand, and it's approximately $140 million in real estate assets on the books today. So how does that all play out in terms of how do we invest them? Taking each and every one of those properties, each and every one of those kind of cash resources that we have, what we have modeled within the plan is that about 26% would be invested via infrastructure and grants over the period of time that I just showed you, or about $82 million. That goes to things like streets, parks, community livability grant, prosperity investment program grants. About 30% goes to mission-related investments, again at that 6% return. You'll see it's kind of a smaller number than the program-related investments. And that's the 6% return, with a sizable amount of this happening through the central city properties and or cash that we have, and you'll see that broken down by urban renewal area. And then finally, about 43%, or about $140 million, is via program-related investments. So again, this provides us with a portfolio snapshot of the targets. At an urban renewal area by urban renewal area, just so that we could be responsive to the various action plans that we have, the various properties that we own. What this shows you at a high level is in all of our neighborhood urban renewal areas, we have really focused on our program-related investments and infrastructure investments. Relative to some of our older districts within the central city, we're really looking to those for our mission-related investments or the higher rate of return at 6%. From an expenditures standpoint, again, this takes the assumptions that I showed you early on and shows how the resources coming in on an annual basis would cover the operating and program expenditures. For the agency, it does not capture kind of any capital expenditures similar to what we would make today in either property development, business loans, et cetera. What we are looking at in terms of capital investments, and we're at, I would say, various stages for these sources. So Property Fit is a program that's come before the board in the past. It's actually a program that we will administer and provides us access to resources to lend into capital investments via a property assessed program, assessment program. The Portland Community Investment Fund has similarly come before the board. This is our allocation request for new market tax credits that will allow us to continue to fund capital investments within our projects. And then last but not least, we've started a conversation with Business Oregon regarding, they have a program that's called the Regionally Significant Industrial Sites Program, wherein it actually captures kind of income tax to reimburse costs for preparing sites and supporting job growth in the city. So with that, I'm going to hand it off. Oh, no, I have one more. So as we move forward, what we've been doing is really kind of where we left you 6 months ago. We've taken a lot of that feedback and started to embed a portfolio approach to all of our financial investment committee discussions, and we're starting to look at changing our policies, particularly as relates to acquisition, disposition, and leasing. Many of those policies were put in place when we were more buying properties to redevelop via tax increment financing, or buying properties that have existing leases in anticipation of redeveloping them. And we want to make sure that it also allows us to kind of maximize or optimize our existing leases. We have underway, we've scoped and anticipate getting out via solicitation a request for a portfolio management software, which would allow us to improve the performance across our real estate properties. We've started the conversation around loan products and how do we really get out that volume of loan investment that we anticipated doing over the next 15 years. We are pursuing new commercial ownership or master lease opportunities like the 10th and Yamhill project that came before you earlier this month. And then we're continuing our efforts towards new capital resources, including those programs that I described. I think with that, goes to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Chair Kelly, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham, Justin Douglas, Policy Manager. Lisa talked to you about the nuts and bolts of the business plan and the model, and I just wanted to spend a few moments talking about how we communicate the work that we do and how we believe that's important in guaranteeing long-term funding for the agency. So I'm going to walk you through an animated visual that we have found has actually been very helpful for staff in understanding the connection between the strategic plan and the work that they do on a day-to-day basis. So our most important strategic plan goal is widely shared prosperity among all residents of Portland. This is really our North Star, building an equitable economy for Portlanders. And as you'll recall from the communication strategy that came to you in May, there are four key principles or four key messages that describe all of the work that we do. We work to deliver healthy jobs, create healthy neighborhoods, widely shared prosperity, and community-based partnerships that help us further our work. So the work that we've been doing internally with staff over the last couple of months has been trying to identify a connection between those higher level goals and the day-to-day work that staff do. So at the bottom of the slide here, you see these are our programs and projects, and these are the things that staff do every day, our workforce development work that you heard from Morgan, the grants that you heard from Kim Moreland, our entrepreneurship work. This is not comprehensive, but this is a suite of some of the work that we do. And through that work, we have the staff who do that work are proud of the work that they do, and we often report on what we call outputs, the loans that we get out the door, the number of grants, the real estate transactions, the business visits. But what has to date been missing between the high-level strategic plan and the work that we do on a day-to-day basis is ensuring that the work that we do, that the outputs, that it has a human element, and that everything we do has a connection to people, to businesses, to community-based organizations. So it's not about the real estate transaction. It's about the building that creates jobs for people in an underserved neighborhood. It's not necessarily about the number of grants that we get out the door. It's about creating wealth among business owners in East Portland. So over the last few months, we've been working on focusing staff to think about what are the human-focused outcomes. And this, again, is not comprehensive, but when we're talking about human outcomes, these are the things that we're talking about. Skilled employees will be able to gain higher-level jobs. Community strength and diversity will be a sign that neighborhoods are resilient. Control of destiny is something that's important for folks in neighborhoods that they feel are changing and that they have control over what happens in their neighborhoods. So throughout all of this work, we feel that it really has two implications or two upsides. The first is internally that it really helps staff understand that while we do many different things at Prosper Portland, it's actually more simple than I think we often talk about, in that it all delivers on the strategic plan goal, and it's all in service of jobs, neighborhoods, prosperity, and partnerships. And I think that's been really helpful for staff to see that there's a clarity to the work that they do. The second thing, and the one that's more connected to the business plan, is that if we can talk about the work that we do and connect the human-focused outcomes to funding partners, so that they know with every staff that we have, we can guarantee that we can serve the residents of the city of Portland through grants that serve community-based organizations, workforce development that trains a certain number of workers. So the metrics that we will ultimately come out of through this work will help us make a case for why the work that we do is important and how that delivers on our strategic plan goals. So moving forward, staff will be finalizing the business plan over the course of the next month or two, and then we anticipate sitting down with City Council and having a work session with them so that they can consider the components of the business plan in August or early September. We would return to the Prosper Portland Board with a final business plan for the commissioners to consider, and then again bring that to City Council for their consideration slightly thereafter. So that concludes Lisa's and my presentation, and we are happy to hear your thoughts, entertain questions.
Could we go back a slide back one more? So, I mean, I do think that this is the beginning of the really important part of the business plan, that demonstrating, measuring, convincing our funders, and when I say that, I think it's probably most importantly the City Council, that we're going to demonstrate outcomes over time that really make a difference. What I don't see there, and maybe it comes under community strength and diversity, which I think is really important, is offering ownership opportunities, real estate ownership opportunities to people from low-income communities and communities of color.
Real estate and business.
Real estate and business both, thank you. And I don't know how we could work that in, but.
That's a great point, Chair Kelly. This is really just there's 5 that are listed here. It's a suite of about probably 25 that we're working on.
Sure.
And that is included, but I appreciate that comment.
Sure. Has the City Council, have they all been exposed to the concept of the rebound funds? Sorry, thank you. Have they?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So they have been exposed to it. The topic of the Boomerang Fund has become front and center within the conversation as Mayor Wheeler proposed to use some of the Boomerang Fund to support transportation infrastructure through Build Portland. And so we will have an opportunity to share the graph that you saw, the animated graph about what will be going back to the City General Fund and what portion we're hoping may come or would be under consideration for Prosper Portland at a work session with City Council on August 1st. So we've had conversations about it. It's still in early days. It doesn't yet show up on their budget and forecast, although it's, their budget office is, of course, aware of it. But it is an unprogrammed resource, and so I think City Council is wanting to be thoughtful about how they might, consider the full uses.
I think in one meeting we sat in with Ken Rust, he said that there's already, various parties recognizing those funds and looking to grab those funds.
I mean, I did hear in a meeting with the mayor that he's in general supportive of the concept. I'm just thinking about all the other commissioners that we're going to have a vote on this too.
Council members. City council members.
City council members, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Quick here. I would encourage that as we're getting our outcomes and as we're measuring those, that we engage different public groups to identify and help us course correct to maximize our outcomes, especially when when it comes to meeting our goals that we've set on whether it's project by project or as a organization. There are several different community benefit or community organizations that would help deliver a lot of these outcomes that we're looking for that could help us identify deficiencies and course correction that would be advantageous to us. So,
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have a couple. First of all, I love in the first part of the presentation, you used the word intentional. I think that's a big key to being successful around this. I also think that partnering, both with for-profit and not-for-profit, the RFP that I think Bobby has out on the street right now for a lending fund is a really good example of maybe we have the funds, but we don't have the expertise, and looking to partner with those that do have the expertise. And I think on the potential development of some of our properties, probably the same thing. I also think from a metrics point of view, and I love metrics, we've gone over the last 3 or so years from talking about simple rates of return to now starting to talk about internal rates of return. And I think talking about it both from on a project level as well as a portfolio level, when we're reviewing investments, whatever they may be, I think it'd be very, very good for the commission to understand what the project returns are as well as how it impacts our overall portfolio and getting to what our objectives are. I also think we have a big fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers. And I really see that in two perspectives. I think we all do. And one is to maximize financial returns, so we will have funds to generate grant money and on what I call the mission side, the non-financial side. And I think, being really cognizant as we look at opportunities, investments or grants, how are we measuring those both from a financial and a non-financial perspective as a commission. And then reporting at year end on both of those, being real candid and honest and transparent about where we're falling short, both financially, falling short and exceeding both financially as well as non-financially, and what our objectives are to the community. And I think if we do that, we're going to have an easy story to tell. And I think it'll also be helpful to self-correct when we need to. So I'm really excited about it.
We certainly have gotten a lot of input about parking garages from various parties, and at least some of the stuff that I've learned, I think it's important for us, if we do any more than the one we're doing now, that, and including that one, that we think about how the future might look, and that maybe those parking garages will end up being where driverless cars are stationed during the day when they're not out, or during the night when they're not out picking up all of us, hopefully. That we just really be thoughtful the next time we're involved in a parking garage to think more deeply about the future.
Great work.
Yeah. Good work. Our thanks to Mr. Barnes, too, for his really great work in this project, and everyone else involved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next item is an information item, an update on the Broadway Corridor project. Sarah?
Good afternoon. I will be brief. I believe I am the final item standing between you and a celebration of your good work.
You've got 15 minutes until time certain.
I'll try to speak slower than usual then. My name is Sarah Harple, and I'm a project manager in the Development and Investment Department at Prosper Portland. It's been about 5 months since I provided an update on activities underway related to the Broadway Corridor, so I'm here to provide an update on a few key activities that have happened kind of by phase in our work moving forward. As a quick reminder, this is the Broadway Corridor study area. It includes approximately 24 acres, including the post office property we recently acquired, and a number of significant regional transportation services. This diagram shows where we are in the process today. We closed on the acquisition of the post office property in September of 2016, and the post office is currently working on relocating to a new facility adjacent to the airport. They anticipate being off the site in mid to late 2018. We are anticipating spending the next 18 months working together with our community partners to identify priorities for redevelopment and for community benefits agreement, and selecting a preferred development partner for initial phases of development within the study area. As you may recall, the 2015 framework plan was really a feasibility study to inform a go, no-go decision on the post office acquisition, and the city's authorizing a $40 million line of credit to free up resources for that acquisition. While we had to make some initial assumptions from an urban design perspective, that really wasn't the focus of the study, and so we'll be addressing some of those topics in the forthcoming development planning work. We do know, however, that the land value and resources that the Portland Housing Bureau will bring to bear will be our largest pool of resources for delivering on public benefits within the development site, and that these resources are dependent on the density of development that occurs and the scale of infrastructure investment within the property. We also know that this project is uniquely structured and that the land value that we have above those investments and repaying the line of credit can be deployed both on the site and then in other areas within the city. We have, since the framework plan, refined some of our assumptions on how to deliver on the commitment to providing 720 units of affordable housing within the post office property. And so with the more recent approval of inclusionary housing, the Portland Housing Bureau anticipates delivering approximately 530 units of affordable housing via investment of about $53 million. And then the remaining 190 units will be delivered by the private sector via inclusionary housing at the 10% at 60% median family income option in the policy. We are currently closing out what I'm calling the scoping phase of our work. We initiated this after acquiring the post office to really look at how we can best approach this project and how to best engage the community going forward. This began with an internal racial equity impact assessment that was an internal audit of our past projects and practices and identified ways to interrupt the status quo to lead to more equitable outcomes. We have taken the findings from the audit shown here and used them to inform our approach on the project. Our work on the racial equity impact assessment will continue with community partners as we move forward and looking at refining project goals and measures of success for the project, as well as compiling a comprehensive list of stakeholders who need to be engaged with us through the process. We have looked at how to approach this project differently. We know that some aspects will remain similar to other projects. The technical aspects of the development process through pre-construction, their pre-development through construction remain the same, and that development is highly dependent on the overall health of our economy and the capital market. However, a few aspects are different. This is in part due to the public ownership of the site, our obligation to repay the line of credit, and just the significant scale and opportunity of this development. We have convened the steering committee very early in this process and are working with them to help identify and select a preferred development partner to act as an advisor moving forward. We are also working with the steering committee to identify priorities for a community benefits agreement very early in the process. And we're broadening our efforts to make sure that those who traditionally have not been at the table are engaged in the conversation and have provided financial support for 8 community-based organizations to engage and participate with us in this process. We have convened a 43-member steering committee who will periodically meet in subcommittees shown here, focused on community benefits and urban development. And they currently are meeting on a monthly basis. Their charge is to provide recommendations to the executive committee. The executive committee is formed of Prosper Portland leadership, including Chair Kelly and Commissioner Edlin and Executive Director Branham, leadership from the Mayor's Office and the Portland Housing Bureau, as well as subject matter experts advising on social equity, capital markets, infrastructure partnerships, and kind of legal structures. Commissioner Myers is also serving as one of 4 co-chairs of the steering committee and will now assume responsibilities as the liaison to the executive committee moving forward. The recommendations coming out of the executive committee go to a broad range of decision makers depending on the aspect of the project we're looking at. And so those recommendations will be formally brought forth through Executive Director Branham and the Portland Housing Bureau Executive Director. We know this work will be informed by our Bureau partners from a technical aspect, as well as the selected developer who will serve as an advisor through this process. And we will hold a robust community engagement opportunity that allows work sessions and kind of focused conversations from technical experts, as well as broader interested stakeholders throughout the process. This month, we are pivoting from kind of the scoping and forming process into preparing the developer solicitation with engagement from our steering committee. The selected developer will serve as an advisor through our development planning process, as well as negotiate a community benefits agreement. So we're looking to seek this partner prior to commencing development planning work. They will also have development rights for some portion of the Broadway Corridor area. We are currently proposing that we offer the full post office site in this initial solicitation, but have phased negotiating rights. We're also exploring the division of roles between Prosper Portland and the selected developer in the entitlements process, kind of horizontal development, providing kind of the initial backbone infrastructure for the site, and looking at vertical development and how phasing of development kind of impacts those roles and responsibilities. Future offerings will include other Prosper Portland-owned properties that are on the east side of the Broadway Bridge, including Union Station and Block R. And then we're exploring how to best structure the transaction to provide for both our near-term financial obligations to repay the line of credit, as well as to deliver an ongoing revenue stream that can be deployed both on-site and off-site. So we'll be spending the next 3 months with our steering committee and the executive committee to prepare the developer solicitation. We anticipate issuing it by mid-November and having proposals due by end of January. All responsive respondents will be invited to present in a public forum, and the steering committee will be tasked with shortlisting responses down to 3 respondents for the executive committee to make a final recommendation, which we hope to have to the board in April of 2018. Following that, beginning in May of 2018, we anticipate spending about a year through what we're calling our development planning process, which includes a formal master plan, as well as the negotiation of a development agreement and a community benefits agreement. This will include to engage those committees you saw, as well as include a more robust community engagement process under the advisement of Lara Media, who is our kind of strategic communication advisor for the project. I don't anticipate you be able to read this diagram, but we are lovingly referring to this as the squid, and it is a placeholder for how we will spend the next, that 12 months together, looking at a variety of kind of swim lanes or topic areas that ultimately will be interconnected and weave together as we identify, investigate, and refine concepts and priorities for community benefits. This process will include the formal master plan land use review process that is required for the post office property specifically, and will result, as well as with a development agreement and the community benefits agreement. We recently briefed the Design Commission on this process, given their jurisdiction over the approval of the master plan. Some of their kind of key areas of interest were a desire for civic or cultural facilities within the post office site, particularly of a covered nature. The Pearl District currently, they believe has quality parks, but there's not kind of a covered community hub and attractor for the area. They also were trying to balance kind of the opportunities for the unique character of this area and having a district that has its own character with a preference for retaining our traditional street grid. And so where we detour from that street grid, finding ways to kind of mitigate within the public realm to compensate for that and the density of development. And then they had a keen interest in our sustainability and resiliency goals for the project. Leading into the development planning work, we're also looking at the potential for interim reuse of the existing building, as well as how we follow through on our commitment and requirement to retain the post office retail functions either on site or in the immediate vicinity. Some of the factors that we are using in that analysis are shown here, particularly kind of cost and phasing and code requirements that are related to that. There is also a keen interest in interim activation of the post office sites and other properties that we control within the area. Some of our initial criteria shown here would be interested in your input, but finding ways that are truly temporary, are cost neutral, and provide a tool for engaging the broader community and giving them a sense of kind of interest and ownership in wanting to engage in what this space will become as we move forward. So as I close, I wanted to specifically thank Chair Kelly and Commissioner Edlund for their leadership and their engagement in the executive committee process with us. I think your work has ensured we have the best advisors in place at our executive committee level as we move forward, and then kind of reemphasizing the potential of the development, whether it's been your interest in affordable housing, climate and resiliency goals, and social equity goals for the site. So with that, I will answer questions, parting words of wisdom, input from other board members.
Commissioner Cruz, any?
No, maybe just a little information on how the developer search process is going and what's happening there.
We've received a lot of interest from kind of large national scale developers, and so I think they're keenly watching and attending some of the steering committee meetings and checking in with us on a regular basis. We have not been actively seeking partners yet as we're kind of putting together criteria, but based on kind of our own engagement and the observations from JLL, who's our capital markets expert, we think there will be a high level of interest, particularly at the scale of the offering that we're putting forward.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. One is, I think you've done a great job of getting it to where it is. I mean, you've got this 8-headed monster you're wrestling to the ground here. And I think you've done a great job of selecting outside experts to help you out. And it feels like we're listening to them and following their advice, which I think is going to be really critical going forward. And other than having 2 openings on your executive committee, I think you're in great shape. We did talk in our briefing about the existing post office and, good things do not happen to empty buildings. And the notion of the equipment that's in there as a post office, scrapping that out because that could be a big cost item. But thank you for all your efforts.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. Thank you very much for keeping the 43 or 43 member steering committee focused and moving forward. I mean, you've done a great job, so thank you.
So if there's any angst I have about going off the commission, it's probably this project provides me the most because it's such an exciting project and it would have been fun to continue involvement. When I think about it, I guess my hope is that every aspect from the community input to how we build it sustainably, how we build it with the most aggressive diversity in the workforce and the contractors, that it is the signature sustainability and green project for our city, that the Sustainability Center could end up being. I'm really hopeful that we are able to use as much rural Oregon product as possible in this project, that it be signature for that too. And that's CLTs and other wood products and probably a lot of things I haven't even thought of. I was real involved in the development of the market for juniper, so helping support that industry, find in Oregon and or our region. I don't think we have to be, look up our nose at something from Washington. So that's my hope, that we do it with the best darn developer we can find, because I think that is such a gigantic piece of how successful this is going to be, right, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would add on to that, hiring local as much as we can. I think to date we've done a good job of that, showcasing our local talent and helping to grow our local talent.
Yeah. Our local architectural talent is doing projects all over the world, and we want to have them here too. So those are my comments, and I hope that 10 years from now or so. Oh, the other thing I would say is I was at the port offices and Bill Wyatt's office on Monday night and looked out across the airport, and wow, that post office new building is coming along. It looked like it was ready to be done soon. So I just thought that was something we need to think about. I guess they're ahead of schedule.
Yes.
So thank you for your work and everybody that's involved, and take it forward to great things.
I'll see you at an open house.
So right on time.
Thank you.
Our time certain agenda items. We're first going to have a resolution that I'll read in a moment. But I'll start out by thanking Commissioner Edelin for his participation these last 3 years. I think I recall being on vacation up in the San Juan Islands and spending 45 minutes with him on the phone, convincing him to come on to the commission. So I'm actually proud of the fact that I was able to be reasonably persuasive.
That's the only reason I did it.
And, you know, when I think about the time that in some of the times in meetings over the last 3 years where your insights and your expertise, I think, saved the taxpayers some money, helped our staff do a better job. Just in so many ways, your participation on this commission has been invaluable and important. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Pablo?
I would just echo those same comments and say that it's been a pleasure to serve on this commission with Commissioner Edlin, and really appreciated your expertise and all your work. I know you're an extremely busy guy, and despite that, you have been very engaged in the commission's work, and you've really delved into the details and the mechanics of things in a way that I think is really admirable and much appreciated. So thank you very much for your time.
Commissioner Myers.
A lot has been said already. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you for your guidance and your advice over the years. And got a call just a little bit ago from former Commissioner Mullis, who sends his condolences that he couldn't be here today, but he also offers up congratulations and good luck in the future.
Well, I've probably known you for the shortest amount of time, but what I can say in that short amount of time is that you've had impact. And so I want to thank you for your perspective, for your honesty, and for your keen desire to get it right and to really pay attention to the details, because they do count. So luck is not something that I think you need. I think you are very skilled and are going to continue to do amazing things. So it's been an honor to serve with you, and thank you.
Thank you.
So it's my honor to read this resolution, and then we'll vote on it. Resolution number 7244. Whereas Mark Elam was appointed as a member of the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners by Mayor Charlie Hales and confirmed by the City Council effective October 1st, 2014. Whereas Mark Elam was instrumental in providing leadership and guidance on numerous notable property transactions by Prosper Portland, including the sales of the Grove Hotel, Southwest 3rd and Taylor, now a Marriott AC Hotel, and Northwest Davis and NATO site that is now the home of Anchor Moyson Architects, the University of Oregon and residential space, as well as the acquisition of the ODOT blocks in Southeast, it says Southeast Portland, yes, Southeast Portland. Whereas Mark Elam provided valuable advice and guidance to Prosper Portland's Financial Sustainability Committee and to the development of the agency's long-term business plan. Whereas Mark Elam's strong advocacy for preserving natural resources and net zero energy use has been a valued guide for the agency's support of clean technology and green building practices. Whereas Mark Elam demonstrated his commitment to shared prosperity through his ongoing support of the agency's work in East Portland and the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative. Whereas Mark Elam's dedication to education made him an effective contributor to the agency's work and partnerships with Portland educational institutions. Whereas Mark Elam has frequently deployed his professional skills in real estate development to guide Prosper Portland through complex development transactions, particularly the landmark acquisition of the U.S. Postal Service and distribution site in Northwest Portland, the first step in a transformation project that will benefit Portlanders for generations to come. Whereas Mark Elam volunteered significant time away from his family and his business to ensure Prosper Portland's mission and vision for the city would be achieved. Whereas Mark Elam has ably represented the City Commissioner of Prosper Portland in Portland and across Oregon. Whereas Mark Elam has diligently and forthrightly carried out his civic duties on behalf of Prosper Portland and in the best interest of the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Prosper Portland individually and collectively commends Mark Elam for his service to Prosper Portland and the constituency of City of Portland that Prosper Portland represents. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. I would accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You can't vote.
Abstain.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Edlin.
Thank you. I would like to say a couple of things, if I may. First of all, it's been an absolute pleasure working with each and every one of my fellow commissioners. It's been fun to get to know you, and it's been fun to work together here at Prosper Portland. I'm sure Tom will say the same thing, but I think the most important and the best decision we made was hiring Kimberly. I just can't say how much fun it's been to watch you step into the role that you have today and where you've led the agency and how you took control quickly and started to make changes, and I think they've all been very, very positive. I love your transparency, acknowledging our past mistakes, and being open with the community and moving forward in a very positive fashion. I mentioned this at the briefing, and the staff has just been absolutely spectacular to work with. I love getting the FIC meeting minutes and the agenda and reading through the items and throwing out stupid questions back at you, and you always get responses back really quickly. You're all incredibly well prepared. When things do come up, the follow-up is really sharp. And you're all really, really good people. I think I can speak for myself and probably all of us. You make our job very, very easy. So I'm very grateful for your work. And last, it's been my distinct pleasure and honor to be a part of this community that I love and to serve it by having an opportunity to be here. So thank you for that opportunity. And thanks for the phone call. And you run the most timely meeting of anybody I've ever been associated with.
Thank you. That might be the best compliment I get today. I think I need to turn over the next item to our Vice Chair of the Commission, Tavo Cruz.
Yes, thank you. Well, many things have already been said, of course, about Chair Kelly and Commissioner Edlin, but with respect to Chair Kelly, I just want to thank him for his wise, steady leadership, the amazing amount of community involvement that you've undertaken over the years, not just with respect to the PDC, but with other efforts as well in the community. And I find it most impressive and inspirational that even after this big job that you've taken on here, now you're moving on to starting the Oregon Business Alliance for Climate, which I think is another very impressive and noble cause that I think will gain traction and will be very important in our community. So I want to thank you for your tremendous work on behalf of Prosper Portland, but also for all the future things that I know that you're going to continue doing. So, and then just on a personal note, with respect to both of you, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and serving on this commission with you. You're great guys, and it's been a lot of fun to work with you. Before I read the resolution, would the other commissioners like to say something about Chair Kelly?
I want to thank you as well. Thank you very much for your leadership, and thank you for all the advice you've given me over the years, and thank you for keeping us on track and on time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to start personally because I personally want to say thank you for your mentorship and for your openness and for leading and guiding with patience, and also demonstrating your commitment to community in a powerful way, not just in word, but in deed. And that definitely is awe-inspiring. And I just really appreciate you and what you've done, not just here with Prosper Portland, but what you and your business have historically done for all communities. So before we had even had this theme of sharing prosperity across communities, you've been doing that for a long time. So I just want to personally say thank you. And that I know that I wouldn't be here had it not been for your encouragement. So thank you very much. And then just in terms of, everything else, I too look forward to the great things that you'll continue to do. And this is not goodbye, this is see you on the road.
Yeah. Thank you.
In addition to running a great meeting, I also admire the multi-generational deal. Before the meeting started here today, Tom and I were talking about his son and the role his son has in business. I love that you're second generation. I also would echo the sentiment that your commitment to, I've seen it through your work at what you do in your business, whether it be sustainability, the solar initiative that you've taken on, women in trades, minorities, your long-term commitment to that community is really admirable, Tom, and it's made a big difference. Every week or every month when we'd have these meetings, and you'd say, well, I went over to the mayor's office, gave a report. I was thinking, God, I'm glad he's doing that, not me. And I would also say you had a tremendous opportunity to screw this up. I mean, the things that happened along the way but you didn't. You didn't. Your leadership in selecting Kimberly as the new director, and I thought the process that we went through with that, your guidance in that, Tom, was just absolutely stellar. And likewise on many, many other initiatives that we had here. We were lucky to have you. I admired Scott and how he did his job, and I equally admired you and have admired you and what you've done here. I also look forward to more things from you and your family, and look forward to seeing you on the road likewise. Thank you.
Forward to seeing you on the road.
Great, thank you, commissioners. Those are great comments. So with that, I will go ahead and read resolution number 7245. Resolution of commendation and appreciation to Tom Kelly for distinguished service and outstanding dedication to prosper Portland and the city of Portland. Whereas Tom Kelly was appointed to the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners by Mayor Charlie Hales and confirmed by the Portland City Council effective January 8, 2014. Whereas upon his confirmation, Tom Kelly became the first second-generation member of the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners, succeeding his father, Neil Kelly, who served from 1985 to 1990. Whereas Tom Kelly was elected as chair of the Prosper Portland Board effective June 25, 2014. Whereas Tom Kelly provided over Prosper Portland's landmark acquisition of the U.S. Postal Service and distribution site in Northwest Portland, the first step in a transformative project that will benefit Portlanders for generations to come. Whereas under Tom Kelly's leadership, the agency embarked upon multiple public-private partnerships to create health, connected neighborhoods throughout the city, including the construction of Gateway Park, the long-awaited redevelopment of 4 sites in Lynn's Town Center, the Broadway Corridor Framework Plan, and the milestone agreement with ZRZ Development in South Waterfront. Whereas Tom Kelly provided leadership and guidance for Prosper Portland's community-focused initiatives, including the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative Districts and the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative and Action.
Excuse me, Commissioner. Could somebody, my wife just walked up, and I'd like to have her in here just so she can hear a couple of these things.
Absolutely.
So sorry for interrupting.
I could start at the top.
You don't have to start at the top. And my son, too. My son Garrett just came in.
Whereas, well, you missed some good things, but we'll catch you up later. Whereas Tom Kelly has been a steadfast advocate of small business and the agency's efforts to improve the landscape for underrepresented entrepreneurs and business owners, particularly women and people of color, including the Startup PDX Challenge, the Inclusive Startup Fund, and the Small Business Technical Assistance Program. Whereas Tom Kelly championed the agency's 2015 to 2020 strategic plan, setting a new course for Prosper Portland to focus its work on building an equitable economy that serves all Portland residents, especially communities of color and the historically underserved. Whereas Tom Kelly led the Prosper Portland Board in its adoption of the 2017 communication strategy and rebrand, launching a new era in the agency's nearly 60-year history. Whereas Tom Kelly has frequently deployed his professional skills as a business owner to guide Prosper Portland through complex transactions with a careful eye on how those deals would benefit the community at large. Whereas Tom Kelly volunteered significant time away from his family and business to ensure Prosper Portland's mission and vision for the city would be achieved. Whereas Tom Kelly has ably represented the city as chair of Prosper Portland here in Portland and across Oregon. Whereas Tom Kelly has diligently and forthrightly carried out his civic duties on behalf of Prosper Portland and in the best interest of the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Prosper Portland individually and collectively commends Tom Kelly for his service to Prosper Portland and to the constituency of the city of Portland that Prosper Portland represents, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. Therefore, I would accept a motion to approve resolution number 7245.
So moved with the comment that we missed putting in there, he's a darn nice guy.
Thank you, and thank you for the additional comment.
Second.
Second, thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Kelly. And
Thank you. So I pinned a memo to the staff that I think went out earlier today, and just paraphrase that a little bit. You know, when I first was invited to coffee with Charlie Hales, I had no idea that he was going to ask me to do this, and I was actually a little bit sort of shocked. Took me a few days to go, okay. Actually, I took some time to think about it, and I'm glad I decided to do it, because it's been a great experience, a wonderful ride, gotten to know a lot of great people. I think these last 3 years, I think we'll look back and say this was a pretty transformational, important time for this agency, and in the light of, you know, the changes in tax increment financing and so on, it's been an important time. The projects that we've been involved with have really been incredible. The ZRZ, Lentz, I'm so proud when I go out there and see all those cranes in the air. You know, doing something with Centennial Mills, which I wish we were a little further along than we are, but somebody's choreographing this. There's the, there's the picture. But to have that getting towards it towards a place where something's going to happen, and I am the guy who told the mayor we got to tear a lot of that down, and I feel really good about that decision, because I think it was otherwise dangerous for our city and the river. You know, being involved in the negotiations, or the oversight of the negotiations for the post office blocks after, what, 25 years? I think bureaucrats started out the conversations with the post office, if I know the history right. And the strategic plan, which I'm so proud of. It is just it's a phenomenal document. Our whole communication plan and the name change, all of those things I'm really proud of. What I said in my memo about the staff, I think those of us who are citizens and we look from the outside in to an agency like this one, it's really easy to, you know, sort of have a jaded perspective and, you know, say they're a bunch of bureaucrats or whatever. And these 3 years, I've learned what great people work here. You know, that they are really determined. I think I used the word bent on making Portland a better place to live, and they really care about everyone in the city. The participation in the Crossroads training that I did, we 3 commissioners here did a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, was phenomenal in the sense that this agency has an impact to deal with racism like I think no other does, and are either a business or a government agency in our state, at least that I'm aware of. So I'm really proud of that. Really proud of Kimberly. You know, my finest moment might have been when we had the old mayor and the new mayor in the room when we got them to agree on Kimberly. That was pretty phenomenal a year ago or so. So there's just been a lot of really great things about being part of this agency and being able to be involved at such an important time. So, and there's the guy that I followed in his footsteps, Scott Andrews. Thanks for coming, Scott. So, that's what I have to say. And thanks to my family my wife, where'd she go? For putting up with the fact that I was gone more than usual. Support that I got from her. So it's time for some testimony from a few people. Let me see. I see Nancy Hales. Nancy, you want to come up and say a few words?
Sure do.
Uh-oh.
So
fellow commissioners. I'm Nancy Hales. I'm Charlie Hales' wife, and I'm going to be channeling Charlie today because, as you know, he's out in the Caribbean, somewhere between Cartagena and Santa Marta, Colombia. So, he has a few sailing nautical terms in here. I think he can't help it, so I'm going to sort of put those to side. But he would start by saying, it's really good on the other side, and you both have, wherever, you have an open invitation to join us as crew, and actually Tom and Barbara already have. So from Charlie. Tom and Mark, when I asked you to take these very important volunteer posts, I knew who you were, and I know how you lead. And if I might be forgiven this one nautical term, I like the cut of your jib. Okay, I'm going to take the rest out. You have served us so well. Your selfless, your bold, your visionary leadership has shaped our city and the lives of its people, all for the good. Particularly to the point about selflessness. Few will fully understand and recognize the size of your gifts to Portland, even the foregone business opportunities, and Charlie knows those both very, very well as you stepped into these roles. Tom, you lead one of Portland's most successful and progressive local businesses. You and your family have many and deep ties to this community, and particularly to North and Northeast Portland. And you brought those communitarian values and your deep understanding of the lives of your longtime neighbors to your leadership. And he says the Portland Development Commission, again, he's been kind of out of it, really, to prosper Portland. Even as you've been installing solar panels and beautifying kitchens all over Portland, you've prioritized work here. And I know that. And the past 4 years have been joyful because of your leadership. Mark, you and your company shaped Portland so significantly in these recent decades with bold innovation and smart growth that those ideas have caught on with cities across the world. And I know that also in my former work. Again, thank you, and thank you to Gerdning Edlin. Portland is so fortunate to have your firm, and it's pretty remarkable that we were able to borrow you and so much of your time when you two at Gerdning Edlin had so much else on your plate. So to Ann and Barbara, and I saw Barbara, I don't see Ann. You know how big this commitment has been, and I want to thank you both because you've supported your spouses, and you probably are the reason they've been so successful. I will say not probably.
We would probably agree.
In the biggest volunteer job in town. And then Charlie closes by saying, cities are the most complex human invention. Ours continues to be shaped by thoughtful planning and by Prosper Portland's public entrepreneurship, making ours the best city. You did that. You're doing that. You have my thanks. You have the thanks of all the volunteer professionals and colleagues that you work with, and the thanks of the thousands of those who will say, wow, Portland, what a great city. How did that happen? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to Charlie.
Yeah.
So we have the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Maurice Henderson. Thanks for coming, Maurice.
Of course, my pleasure. Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chair. On behalf of Mayor Wheeler, apologize that he could not be here. Would have certainly wanted to be here to extend his congratulations to you, Chair Kelly, and to you, Commissioner Edlin, on what's really been a remarkable journey. I won't call it volunteerism because I recognize that this is a calling for people. They do not give the hours and the dedicated, compassionate leadership that you've provided based on volunteerism. It's really a calling for service. And I haven't had a chance to meet all of the commissioners in one-on-one, but I've had some time with both of you. Certainly Chair Kelly and your family have been, from a personal side, very helpful to me in my transition here to Portland. And Commissioner Edlin, I appreciated your time and your thoughtfulness when we talked a couple of times earlier this year. Clearly, the city has been shaped by you two, the companies that you run, the people that work under you and work with you. I have not met a person in this community or in this state who has anything but positive things to say about you and the work that you do. And Mayor Wheeler has been really proud to have Prosper Portland as one of the bureaus under his watchful eye, and has appreciated Kimberly's leadership as well as the staff here at Prosper Portland. And the transition that is happening rapidly here is one that is noticeable in the community, and that's in part because of your leadership, because of your humanitarianism, as Nancy said, and because of your focus on equity. And I think that people, as they look back at the years that you were here, will recognize that these were some of the foundational pieces for the next generation of Portlanders and the Portland that is to come. So on behalf of the mayor, on behalf of the mayor's office in the city of Portland, thank you so much for your service, and we wish you the best of luck in whatever pursuits you have going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Maurice, there is a certain conservative talk show host who was saying bad things about me just last week, just so you know. Next is Annette Mattson. Welcome.
I'm going to sit.
You can sit.
Okay. Chair Kelly, members of the commission, thanks for the opportunity to just say a few words of appreciation. And for you, Chair Kelly, as you prepare to step down. For the record, my name is Annette Mattson. I recently left Portland General Electric after 16 years in government affairs and was just elected to the Mount Hood Community College Board. I have served on a number of committees here at Prosper Portland, including the Lens Urban Renewal Advisory Committee, the Neighborhood Economic Development Leadership Committee, the 5-Year Strategic Plan Committee, and my favorite, the Lens 5-Year Action Plan. And I want to thank you over these years for your interest, your focus, and your support on the Lens Town Center urban renewal area during your tenure. As you know, disappointment and distrust in the city of Portland plagued the Lens urban renewal area and its neighborhoods for a number of years. The ORA floundered, it slogged along. We had some occasional successes and bright spots like Bridgetown Natural Foods and the Assurity Building, but the community stayed pretty cynical because the bright spots were years apart. But the good news, in May of 2014, the Lens 5-Year Action Plan was approved by this commission and by the Portland City Council. There was great work by staff. I'll just mention a few, some that are gone and some that are still here: Trang Lam, Layla Aman, Allison Wick, your directors and others. And their professionalism and knowledge, supported by this commission, meant that highly visible investment and redevelopment happened, more than had happened for all the years put together. That staff and that support along the way are so important, the support from you for their work. And I learned this as a school board member in David Douglas. I was there 18 years. We had great teachers. We had great principals. But without the support they need from the top, good stuff doesn't happen. Success isn't possible. So thank you for the support you've given the great people that work here. Well, Zoigle House was a game changer and a positive note on Southeast 92nd that really changed the feel of the community and gave some hope. 9101 broke ground, the new Copper Penny came down, Oliver Station came up, and now we've had the groundbreaking for the Asian Health Services Center. And all of this was under your watch, Chair Kelly. So you understood the need for the focus on the Lens Town Center urban renewal, and you understood the need for that successful strategic investment. The community is going to see a big increase in housing. The goal is 50% of that affordable, which our city so desperately needs, and then 50% market rate, which will have folks with disposable income to support the businesses coming to the area. And there will be businesses coming to the area. That will be phenomenal. We're hoping for, a coffee shop would be really great, and other folks, businesses that serve the local community. And I don't know if you came to PDC looking to build a legacy, but you have one. And if you ever doubt that, just come to 92nd and Foster Road and look up, and it's there. So on behalf of the Lens community, Powellhurst, Gilbert, all of us that are part of the urban renewal area, thank you so much for the lasting work that you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just have to say about Lance is that it all started to come to fruition at a time when construction costs were just going up and up. And we would keep getting these cost increases and need to focus some of that thanks on Charlie Hales, Mayor Charlie Hales, because he was so determined. He was just saying, go do it. And so it's a lot of his encouragement of us, is what I would tell you. Next, we have Greg Block from Sustainable Northwest. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. I'm Greg Block from Sustainable Northwest. We're an organization that believes that the economy, the environment, and equity in communities are inseparable, and that they can all be strengthened with wise policies, partnerships, and investments. And we couldn't have hoped for two better ambassadors of that proposition than Chair Kelly and Commissioner Edlin. It just occurred to me sitting here listening to others recognize and acknowledge your contributions, that you've both provided extraordinary leadership in a really challenging period, transformative period, for the PDC to become Prosper Portland, to have once been simply an economic development department, to become now an engine for equity, inclusion, and prosperity. And that's really an extraordinary legacy. One of two that I could think of sitting back there with unscripted remarks. That legacy requires not just leadership, but pragmatism to get anything done, which I think both of you have made enormous contributions just on pressing through the agenda and making things happen. But that's not enough. You have to have vision and inspire people. And I know as a somewhat skeptical original participant in the Broadway Corridor process, you inspired our organization to really lean in and advocate for a vision that is more inspirational and that you both helped inculcate in our organization. And that vision is, our new sun is not just profit. Our new sun is equity, inclusion, and deep sustainability. And they're together. They're not planets revolving around just profitability or something else. And keeping them together, that they need to be together, is something I think you both have at least provided me and our organization with tremendous inspiration. So the two legacies I wanted to note and close on, and again, just thank you for being model civil servants, really, to contribute back to our city, are the transition to what's going to become a really exciting new organization under the great leadership of Kimberly, and a compliment to add to those who have complimented you for that selection. And then second, what I think will be a physical legacy, the Broadway Corridor project is going to illustrate this new vision and the potential of Prosper Portland. So it's been an extraordinary period, and we just wanted to thank you and make sure we stood up here today to acknowledge that.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you very much. Ashley Henry.
Good afternoon.
Good
Chair
afternoon.
Kelly and Commissioner Edlin, thank you so much for all of your service. My name is Ashley Henry. I am with a new organization called Business for a Better Portland. And our missions, I believe, are so compatible, and we're really grateful for the work that you've done to bring Prosper Portland into this new phase of its existence in Portland. And you know, as we know at Business for a Better Portland, in order for business to succeed, we need to build a more prosperous and equitable city. And so we appreciate you never letting the community down in that regard. And just wanted to thank you for your leadership on advancing prosperity and building wealth in communities of color. In fact, one of the projects, the first project that our organization undertook was a crowdfunding campaign for the Sons of Haiti Lodge and food carts, and our members raised money to help them meet their fundraising goal. And that's also a project that Prosper Portland provided a community livability grant for to help them to create their own revenue stream. So we very much appreciate your work on that. And then
There's pictures of the dedication, not right now, but it'll roll around.
Oh, it's on there?
Yeah.
And then also the most recent support that Prosper Portland offered a sponsorship of the Vanport Mosaic Festival, which is actually the genesis of our organization dates back to our founding board chair sharing with her Twitter followers about the Vanport Mosaic Project. And she learned that there was a lot of generosity in the community to bring that project into a festival, and she helped to raise the funds for that, and that became the model that Business for a Better Portland uses, is a monthly call to action that gives people in the business community an opportunity to make financial and other kinds of contributions to issues to bring about more shared prosperity in our community. And we were so grateful that your agency provided support to the festival this year. It was a really educational opportunity for so many Portlanders and for a lot of new business people, a lot of entrepreneurs, people who are new to the city, actually don't know the history of not only Vanport, but the ongoing displacement that continues and that affects our city so deeply. And educational opportunities like that are really, really critical to making sound policy in the future and to healing. So we really appreciate that. And then, of course, personally, I've had the opportunity to work with both of you many times, well outside the context of your service here, both of you being phenomenal leaders in green building and climate and energy policy. I can't count the number of times that we've worked together on those issues. And then most recently, when I helped to do some fundraising for the Affordable Housing Bond campaign, there was no doubt in my mind that you were the two first people that I was going to call. And both of you said yes. And thankfully, both of you hosted events at your companies, helped us to raise the money that was needed to pass that bond campaign. And it was just such a critical example of your commitment to the community. And I'm just really incredibly grateful for you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I don't want to have to ride a bike against you, though.
Did you notice how I suspended the 3-minute limit on comments?
So much for running a good meeting.
Yeah, so much for running a good meeting. But I think it is time for us to gavel this meeting to a close and have a little celebration. How about that? So our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.